I'm tired of my brothers killing each other, man. I just want us to stand up and stand proud for our black nation, man. I'm sick of this stuff, man. I'm tired, man. I love my family. Everybody's my family now, you know? Everybody, you my family. Cameraman, I don't even know you. I just met you today. Cameraman, you my family. I'm tired of this stuff, man. It needs to stop. It really needs to stop.
Lots of people talking about the violence here in St. Louis. Our next guest wants to make a documentary film about it. Terrence Strong is our guest. Terrence, welcome to the Big 550 KTRS here in St. Louis.
Thanks for having me.
You're sending out a flyer, and this flyer is called The Grim Reality, and it's an independent documentary about the staggering murder rate in Black St. Louis. You write in this flyer that's going around town, as of August 18th, 2015, 127 people have been murdered in St. Louis. 119 of them are black. 25 are black females. 102 of them are black males. 89 of these murder cases are still open. The documentary is called The Grim Reality?
That is correct.
What do you want to do?
Well, what I want to do is I want to get different perspectives from different people who have either been infected by, as far as victims' families goes, everyone from law enforcement to community leaders, to just kind of try to address some of these issues on why the murder rate in 2015, particularly in Black St. Louis, shot up so much.
Why? What are some of the findings that you're hearing? What are some of the reasons that you believe are behind this?
A lot of times, the police, either they don't release a lot of information or they don't have a lot of information, but a lot of times you hear chatter on the street, and a lot of times it comes to money, basically. Sometimes it's relationship-wise, domestics, and other times it's just from stagnant old beefs that, you know, people may have had. Someone's family member may get assaulted or murdered, retaliation, et cetera, et cetera.
How far are you into this movie?
Well, I'm about 30% into the pre-production. The way I set it up, the quickest way for me to gain traction was to talk to a lot of the people in the community on the street level. Mm-hmm. That was fairly easy, and from there I set up a trailer and to try and legitimize the project and attract some of the criminologists and some economists and some of the more professional people and get their aspects as well.
How honest have these people been with you?
To be honest, I've never met a more brutally honest group of people. Brutally honest. People are scared. People are concerned. People who you would stereotypically probably would think could care less, they're really worried because every night, 2, 3, then a day goes by where there's none, and then it just picks up the following day.
What people I don't think understand about crime in the city, crime in a neighborhood, is that the rest of the community that lives in that area is petrified of the crime. And yet they're so afraid of the crime, they can't speak out because they're afraid of retaliation.
Yes, I could totally see that perspective. I know personally I had a situation in my neighborhood where I was involved in a situation where I had to identify a burglar. Not thinking, I thought that I was doing the right thing to protect my block. If you're going to rob my neighbor's house, you'll rob mine. But the first thing the police did as part of their procedure was bring the guy back to my house,
right,
in the back of a police car. And they said they can't go any further until I come up to the car in front of my house and point to the guy and say, that's the guy. Mm-hmm. Had I known that was the procedure, I probably would have been slightly reluctant. And that was just a burglary.
Yeah. But in New York, Chicago, Dallas,
Philly,
Denver, Los Angeles.
It's everywhere.
There's everywhere. Are you getting to what's St. Louis's issue? Because it seems like St. Louis, compared to New York, there's much more crime per capita in St. Louis than in New York. Are you trying to get to the root of why it's just in St. Louis? Because a lot of these things seem to be pervasive all over the place.
It does seem to be pervasive all over the place, but I'm a native St. Louisan. I certainly have concern for victims and people in communities that are threatened about this across the country. But my focus is on St. Louis. And some of that more nuanced insight that you speak of, I'm hoping to attract some people who have a little more in-depth knowledge of that, such as criminologists.
Yeah.
What do you hope comes out of this?
What I like to tie into it is that it's no mystery that there's a direct relationship between some of these high violent crime areas, particularly murder and economic problems, disparity. The way some of the communities look is the perfect backdrop, if there's a such thing, for such violence to take place. And I want people to take a good look at what can we do as a community to reinvest in the community, to circulate more of our income in the community, and to position our children where they feel appreciated, where they feel the adults are responsible in doing things to not only keep them safe, but to set up the environments where crime is not so prevalent.
This is Terrence Strong, is a documentary filmmaker, is in the process of making a film. You're looking for people, is that right?
I am. I started out just hitting the streets, a lot of events and parks where people gather, and I had a lot of people who knew people or not specifically was affected or may not have been the best person for the interest of the documentary.
Right.
So after the shooting of 9-year-old Jamila Bowden, I was in Ferguson that night, and I thought it'd be an okay idea if they're going to be a big gathering of people to make these flyers and hand them out and take it offline, because I've just been using social media, and so many people are not in that avenue, so I
Right.
just wanted to cast a wide net.
So people who want to speak to you, who sit down and talk with you, they can find you how?
They can find me, yes. They can email me. My email address is gsmdox@gmail.com. They can also contact me via cell or text 314-605-6449.
My theory is that St. Louis sits in the middle of the country. It's a crossroads of 3 or 4 different interstates. There's no shortage of information that we're in the middle of a heroin epidemic.
Sure.
And a meth epidemic.
Yes.
How much of the murders are an offshoot of the drug wars and the drug issue that is working its way through north, south, east, and west that come through St. Louis?
I don't have the specific numbers, but I have to believe that it's a lot of the problem. And it goes back to economics again. You have communities and places where pockets of people are literally ostracized from the mainstream economy. You have this underground economy, and people are literally fighting tooth and nails for basic resources, keep food on the table, or to keep roofs over their head in some cases. And there's a particular sergeant, his name is Officer Michael Sack, and he was quoted on Sunday in a Post-Dispatch article. And he was saying that, you know, some of these cases, it's as little over $60 involved, and 2 or 3 people lose their lives.
Yeah, well, that's the offshoot of that's the life you live. That's the self bravado. The hey, you slighted me. You looked at my girlfriend the wrong way. That's that heightened sense of adrenaline, being in a drug war, and so on and so forth. And you know, as they say, if you live by the gun, you die by the gun.
But doesn't all that start at home? You know, isn't that how, when you're raised to do what you want and be on the street, and you don't have a curfew, and there's no one telling you come home at this time, and then you get mixed in with the wrong people, and it's just a vicious cycle.
I'm sure a great deal of it starts at home, but you know, it's interesting how when it's particularly cases concerning homicide in the black community, it always goes back to the issue at home. But we live in a violent society, and no one really questions why the theater shooter and what was going on inside of his home, you know, when he wasted 9 people at a movie. Indeed, personal accountability is a huge part of this, but it's really, really hard for people to teach personal accountability if it's something they don't practice or haven't been taught themselves.
Well,
True.
but
It's got to start somewhere.
the
though,
movie
right?
theater shooting, one could argue, is a mentally ill person. It manifests itself through a violent culture.
Agreed.
Whereas the drive-by shooting of the 9-year-old, I don't think you could necessarily say that that's a mental illness that's manifesting itself.
It very well could be. One thing about it is that the shooter has not been identified.
Right.
And
But
anyone who shoots into a place not knowing, I'm not a clinical psychologist.
Right, no.
but
Right. I understand what you're saying.
There's some twistedness to that.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I think collectively society wouldn't necessarily say that one low-level drug dealer killing another low-level drug dealer is a mental illness the way the mass shootings are at a McDonald's or a school or so, or a theater or something.
But on its own, isn't it a societal illness?
There's no question. There's no question. Terrence Strong, our guest. How can people get a hold of you if they want more information or if they want to sit down and tell their story to you?
Again, my email is gsmdox@gmail.com. Also, they can contact me through text or call 314-605-6449. And I'm also on Facebook, TERRENCESTRONG. And we do have a Facebook page for The Grim Reality on Facebook.
When do you expect it to be out, to be finished approximately?
Production-wise, I'm hoping for it to be done, shot, and edited by the end of September, and I'm trying to work out a deal with some of the local theaters where we can have a couple of screenings.
Nice.
I'm not in for profit, so after I do a couple screenings, I'm going to do screenings in the neighborhoods where this is mostly affected.
Well, you're welcome here, and when you finish the movie, come on back and we can talk all about it.
Certainly. Thanks for having me.
Terrence Strong, ladies and gentlemen. Look, check him out on Facebook, Terrence Strong, and the movie, the documentary. This is The Grim Reality. By the way, the Dow is open for about a minute and a half. It is already up 222 points. We'll keep an eye on that as well. 8:31.